Hello and welcome to Record Label Boss, and that's actually now called Music Mashup. Anyway, welcome to the show today, and today is show number 178. I looked it up the other day, actually just verified it now as well, and it's the 178th time. It's Monday, and it's the second before last show in this season, so welcome to Music Industry Monday, or Music Mashup, like I call it now, or something like that, with some very interesting topics for today that you're welcome to participate in. And the topic today is women's rights, gun control, crypto crisis or crash, I don't know what I said, and how to navigate that as an artist. I recently talked to some other people, and the question that I want to raise today and talk a little bit about with you is how to navigate questions of human rights as an artist. Should you speak up about it? Should you not speak up about it? Should you say something about it at all? should you do something about it? And this is something that a lot of people have a hard time with, because if they fear that if they speak out for a certain standpoint, some of their fans will like it, but some other fans will hate it and abandon them. And then, of course, there's the obvious question of in a situation where you have generally a bad economy, you have problems on the crypto market, you have rising interest rates, you have war in Ukraine, and generally there's a situation where people don't necessarily think about artists as the first item on their list, how to navigate that and what to do, and maybe we can give you some tips on how to survive as an artist in what is essentially a critical or a difficult time economically. I want to say hello to everybody who's joining today, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. I can see you here on Reddit and here on the other services as well. I want to say hey to Meg and Yomim, who are already on here. And also I want to introduce you a little bit to a slightly modified set. We're going to think about the set for season 3. And I think for season 3, which starts on, I think, the 5th of September, we're going to return to a non-green screen set with an actual set and some cool effects in the background with some lighting and stuff. I think that's really cool. Plus, I like to switch it up every season. So I'm going to go into holidays from the 1st of July to the 1st of September. I'm not going to stop working. Hey, Lottie. But I'm not going to stream. So you all have a wonderful time at the coast or wherever it is that you go. And I'll focus on other issues. We will have a Count Zero meeting in Croatia in August as well. And that usually gives me a little bit of time to think about the show and to figure out what's going on. And we will end the show with number 180, I think. And then we will return on September the 5th. Okay, a little bit of organizational stuff here. I know that some people are going to watch this later, and I'm also going to link this on YouTube because it's going to be a segment that a lot of artists are interested in, because generally this question comes up. And Meg says she got sun on her face and apparently she looks like a drunkard. But in essence, it's a question that every artist has to face sooner or later. So I want to take can you say peace for Kenya, please? Yes. Good thing. Lavaya here is asking for peace for Kenya, and I think we as artists can get behind peace for everybody all of the time, and there we are. At a question that concerns a lot of us. What should you do? And this is the first question of the show. The second question is going to be this economic crisis. First one is going to be humanitarian crisis. What should you do in a humanitarian crisis? Let's say there's a war between two countries like it is now between Russia and Ukraine, or there are topics which are very incendiary like China versus Taiwan, or there are general problems that are in your country that you feel strongly about, like women's rights or gun control in the United States. Should you stay silent, and should you do what a lot of media companies are doing, which is total appeasement of the biggest economical unit? A lot of media companies. Where are you from, Kenya? Greetings to Kenya, my friend. Like Blizzard, like Universal, like many media companies would go ahead and kind of like self-censor in order not to offend a political or organizational unit in order to make money and sell there. And how should you handle that? And well, I'm not going to tell you how to handle it, but I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the ramifications or what it means for you. Vani was at sports first time in 2 years. That's very good. I was talking to UOP. Yes. So no matter if it is Kenya, if it's Russia, if it's Ukraine, let's first talk about you are an artist and there are external conflicts going on that are not in your country that concern you. China versus Tibet, China versus Taiwan, Russia versus Ukraine, the former Yugoslavian war and the stance on it, Kosovo versus Serbia. There is many conflicts that you can either willingly or unwillingly walk into in a verbal way as an artist, because you're going to be asked by an interviewer, because you were in that country performing, you want to say something about it, and how would that affect your standing with your fans? One thing that I do have to say, and I do want to start with it. Where am I from? I am from Austria. Austria in Europe. I'm a born Austrian. I'm also Greek. I am a dual citizen of Austria and Greece. If you take any stand on any topic, certain fans will not like you anymore. And this is a cold, hard truth. We have among our fans on Facebook and on many social media sites people that would be generally associated with the political right, and people that will be associated with the typical political left. And they both feel very strongly about their side. Both of them enjoy our label's music, and both of them have certain artists that they like, that they follow, that they enjoy, that they say, hey, that's really cool. I wanna Morbius. I wanna listen to the artists, etc. And a lot of artists are asking me, or it comes up, should I say this? Should I not say this? Would this be offensive? Would that be offensive? Can we say it? Can we not say it? What should I do? Am I going to lose people here? Am I going to lose people there? I'm going to tell you what very big companies do, and this is that they essentially go for the biggest amount of money, and then they do what the biggest amount of money tells them to do. So you will have people like Blizzard for gaming, you'll have Universal and other media studios essentially say China is important, Tibet is not, Taiwan is not, so we're going to go with China. So essentially a lot of media companies act fairly opportunistic and always take the stance of whatever the larger market is, saying that our stance depends entirely on economy. More money is more better. And no matter how evil or bad somebody is, we're essentially just going to go with the person who is bigger, because bigger equals more money. That is a stance that you can take. And if you take that stance as an artist, do not think that you are alone. Quite frankly, most international media companies are doing the same. They're shamelessly picking sides with whoever they feel benefits them the most. And you, as a small artist, absolutely have the choice to do that as well. That would be the number one choice. Go with the money. The second choice that you have is to not say anything. You can absolutely say that you are about music, you are about entertainment, you are about your lyrics, and your goal is not a political one, and you're not going to get involved because that's not your thing. A lot of people do that. A lot of people are genuinely apolitical. They don't care about stuff other than their music, their art, and you're always able to say, I just don't get into that. And this way you will also not have a problem, because essentially both sides will say, oh, he doesn't get into politics, he's not going to make a statement, etc., to speaking about whatever, and you're not really going to have a problem with anybody. A lot of people do that, and you're allowed to do that as well. There's nothing saying that you cannot do that because you're a small artist. It's absolutely okay to say, I'm about the artistry. I'm going to read some questions here. Vani said, okay, tell me one thing that is not offensive in this actual world. Yeah, and this is where we get to option 3. Thank you, Vani. Hold on, I'm just going to read it a little bit. Okay, now there's a question because one of the viewers has asked specifics about me but isn't willing to answer them about himself. Like Apple doesn't do stuff for Cupertino because they're not California based. In demand an answer if I said he just... No, it's not a secret. I'm a somewhat public persona. My artist name is Avio. Everybody knows who I am. But you should be aware that if you ask an artist personal questions, that people will ask, what's up with that, and then saying, why are you not answering me? And this comes together. So we have somebody here asking, where are you from? Why are you not answering? And then there's Vani saying, it's very difficult to find something that's not offensive to somebody. And this is number 3. So number 1 is go with the bigger one. Number 2 is don't say anything. But here's the problem. Number 3 is, what are you going to do when they ask you? You are an artist, and eventually when you're big enough, you're a streamer, you're performing, people are going to ask you. And if you haven't... if you haven't thought about what you're going to say, you're going to go with the bigger guy, you're going to be neutral. People will sometimes demand an answer from you. So know what you're going to say, because there's going to be somebody asking you, how do you feel about certain things? And then 2 things will happen. If you say, I go with China and I go with the person that gives me the most money, a lot of people will hate you for that. Number 2, if you say, I'm completely apolitical and I don't care about any issue, people will hate you for that, because these 2 options will actually make you look very bad. And if you look at the blowback that companies have been receiving that have a very positive pro-China attitude, or that blowback that artists have been receiving that have a very, I'm not going to get into stuff, people are like, you know what, you're full of shit, you're not taking a stand, etc. So no matter which stance you will take, some people are always going to dislike it. If you don't say anything, people will say you're just, trying to avoid speaking up against horrible people, and you're just a loser. If you take the side of the bigger party, people will say, oh, you're all about the money, you're such a fucking hypocrite. If people ask you and you don't answer, they will say, oh, you're hiding something. So there is a communication strategy to where you're gonna have to think about how to come down on which end of certain topics, and then be happy with the outcome. If you decide you want to go with a certain outcome in communication, you're going to have to be happy with that outcome, because no matter what you say, no matter what you do, people are always going to put you in one camp. The idea that you have this Solomonic persona and you're never going to say anything about anybody, I don't know, maybe works for some time. I've seen a lot of very big artists stay out of stuff for a very long time and then blurt something out just once in 10 years. And because for 10 years they've never said anything to taking sides of any way, that carried so much more weight, and then you're very close to getting canceled. So the communication strategy that I would advise you to do is actually to think about issues, and then if you really have a feeling about them, to kind of like get on them and make your own opinion of stuff, but not to aggressively communicate it. If somebody asks you, you can come and say it. If something horrible happens, you can come out and say it. But to not say something, or to completely shut off any questions about something, is going to make you look detached. It's going to make you look assholish, and it's generally not a way that you can do. A lot of very big artists essentially prohibit interviewers from asking questions like, are you going to do concerts in China, or are you going to do concerts in Taiwan? This is a question that would be prohibited to ask a band, and they will not answer that question because the answer would, in either way, be something that would upset certain fans, and a lot of the bands just care about money. So this question would just not be answered. This, of course, is also a strategy that you could just not answer questions, but then again, this will sound dishonest and weird to many people. The guy has an interesting accent. And then you get criticized as dishonest. That's right. So let's summarize. You can come down on the side of the winner, the bigger one. You can come down and say, I'm not going to answer anything. I have absolutely no stance. And all of these two things will start being a problem once people start asking you questions, Now, you can say, I'm not going to answer that question, strike that question from the interview. That's not going to happen. And many times you're actually going to get ahead with it, and you'll be able to actually not have that question. But the point that I want to go to is how to develop a communication strategy that is a little bit more honest. Unless you're going for purely the money, or you're going for purely the complete ignorance of anything that's happening in the world, the third question then becomes, people will ask you, and where will you come down? What will be the issue? And there are, again, two choices. And if people hire publicists, they're hiding things. That's what Robo Music says that. Yeah, that's really good. That's right. And then people get the feeling you're hiding something. So if you decide that you are actually going to answer stuff, then you still have two choices. You can go with what your fans like. So if you have a certain demographic, and that demographic is 56-year-old white male, lower class, working person, United States, you can absolutely determine what it is that your fans want to hear. If your demographic is white, female, 45 plus, Northern Europe, you can also know where these people politically stand. And then you can tell your fans what they want to hear. That will make your fans very happy, because they will think that you as an artist have the same opinion about so many things as they do, but you're really just being populist. You're just repeating to them what you already know, what it is that they want. We have certain acts that have a following that feels religiously very interesting, very Christian, and is tied to a certain type of artist. And we have artists that have audience that feels very pagan and is tied to a certain type of audience, So if you're a group that has a lot of people that follow them, that identify as modern pagans, it's going to be difficult for you to say something that is completely against what your fans think. Whereas if you are somebody who has a lot of very Christian followers, it's going to be hard to say, Hail Satan or something, People will hate you for that. So consider what your fans want to hear. And then there's another thing to it. You can consider what you want to say. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth option. So you would be an artist that makes some kind of music and you have a diverse audience, or you have an audience that you think is going to understand you being on certain issues, and you being honest about other issues and saying, I don't really care about that, So for example, you could say, I'm an artist, I make this kind of music, I don't really care what religion you have, I'm not really into religion myself. Then some very religious people might be upset, but most people will be like, yeah, he's just not really into that. And you could say, I'm really for animal protection because I love animals, and animals are really valuable and good and important to me, and I really want to help anybody who helps animals. And then people will be like, yeah, cool, he likes animals, So what I'm suggesting for you to do is to immediately develop a communication strategy for positive issues. What I mean by that is there's a lot of issues that are positive, that are unique, that are essentially around the world perceived as positive. The fight against poverty, animal rights, certain things to where you would find very few people that are against it, you can put on your list of issues I support, and they're not going to be critical in any way. And these you should support if you're truly into animals and you really like animals. And I do have many times in my life I had animals. Well, women's right. We will get to that. Then you can support them. And then what's left is what we call the critical issues. Issues to where it's going to split your viewership. It's going to split the people that follow you. And you're going to say things that are going to upset and hurt some people and make other people very happy. And because there's recently been a thing about it, I'm going to talk about, for example, women's rights. Does the woman have the right to vote? Does the woman have the right to drive a car? Does the woman have a right to choose her own education, to choose who she marries, to choose if she has an abortion, to choose to be able to not be married when she's 12? Are you going to support these issues or not? If you support these issues, you will have people that are standing against you. Those are the people that support women getting married at 12, women not being able to have an abortion, women not being able to vote, women not being able to drive a car, women not being equal to men, women not being able to get an education. And there's quite a few of these people in the world. And on the other side, you will have other people that are for these things. So this is a contested issue. Because you will have people that support what you say, and you will have people that don't support what you say. Same thing is discussion, especially on Reddit, for example, capitalism versus humanism, leftism versus rightism. No matter how you feel about any of these are issues that generally have sides in the population. Personally, I don't believe they have sides, but I'm an economist. I see things differently. People like to simplify stuff and then get on one side of stuff. So people say you're either capitalist or you're socialist, which is actually not true, because people don't understand that the opposite of capitalism is not socialism. The opposite of capitalism is humanism. Why? Because capitalism is essentially an ideology where the capital, the money, is the center of economy and seen as the most important thing in economy. And humanism is a thing to where the human person, as the other significant factor in economy, is seen as the very most important factor. And then the economy, the economic theory is built around either of those two. Socialism, communism are essentially political systems, and that doesn't have anything to do with that. So it's many times people that will follow you don't even understand the issue. So you have to be aware that you're talking to people that fundamentally don't understand the issue. They're going to be like, are you for the police or are you against the police? This is, of course, something that comes with the intent to create problems. Never answer a question like that, because it's essentially stupid. The police is something that the state, and the state represented by its people, instates in order to make sure that there is no crime and that crime gets prosecuted. So any person that lives in a democracy has instated police, but the real question is, how should police conduct themselves in any country? The question is not, are you for, the stupidest question is, are you for or against firefighters? Are you for or against doctors? These are questions that are directed towards you, so people want to set you up for you to say something stupid. So many times people will ask you these either or questions, and the two things that are opposite are actually not opposites, or the things that they're asking are actually nonsensical. There is no answer to, are you for or against firefighters? Firefighters are necessary, just like doctors, policemen, just like construction workers, and anybody else who makes society go. And apart from that, anybody has to behave themselves and be a productive member of society. Always checking over there to do something. So few people even know about true anarchism to be asking about police in that context. Yeah. There is a lot of people kind of like try to stick labels on the other side. So one side is trying to say everybody who is for a change of conduct in police is an anarchist, But this is like a childlike behavior to say that anybody who is for personal freedom is this. This labeling is essentially a political instrument in order to put your opponent in a place that he actually isn't in. They're trying to paint people as something that they're not. So when people ask you these either or questions, what I would generally say is that's not really the question. Are you for this or are you for that? Hey Alex, how you doing? Vanessa says that childlike behavior is what's going on for now. More and more it's going into stupidity. Yes. And the way for you as an artist to deal with childlike behavior is to expose childlike behavior first. The question of economy, and I'm going to say this as an economist now, is not capitalism versus humanism, because that's both dumb. In any economic system, you need humans, because humans are the center of economy. They consume, they create, they are the reason why economy exists, and you need capital in order for you to acquire resources with which you make things. So there is no oppositism in capitalism versus humanism, because both things are required. The idea that only one thing would be required is stupid. That's kind of like saying, are you for fire trucks or for firemen? That is a dumb question, because in order to have effective firefighters, you need fire trucks and firemen. When they come together, when the money and the people come together, they make something happen. And human being with air and love, yeah. And this is the case. This is the issue in many cases. But people are just trying to get you to come to their side or to say something stupid, etc. So when people are asking you either or questions, generally tell people that this is not an either or question. Are you for female rights or for religious rights? It's not the opposite. Quite the contrary. I wouldn't know a world religion that says that women have to suffer. And I've read extensively on many religions, and you would be surprised what is in the documents that constitute these religions. Many times it's something completely different than what it is. Its earthly representatives are currently telling you. And you would find it surprising how many people that adhere to a certain religion have actually never read its principles like at all, at least not in an understanding way, or at least not in the original way. It's very interesting. Many things that people set up to be natural opposites are actually not. Humans and capital, fire trucks and firemen. And the list goes on of things that are actually not polar opposites, where people ask you, if you come to the situation, so I wanted to talk about this, the critical issues that don't really have polar opposites. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about, and by the way, if you have any questions, you're really welcome to ask, about things that have somewhat polar opposites. Country A is saying, we are going to invade and destroy country B. And country B is saying, we are going to invade and destroy country A. This is pretty much a polar opposite. How are you going to handle that? One question. Vanessa says it's worse in the law. I remember studying law, and they showed us the old marriage law of Switzerland, where the woman and everything the woman owns belongs to the man. Yeah, that's right. I think that the reason why religion was so successful on every continent was because religion always tried to create a form of social order that would not completely disenfranchise either party. There's a lot of pro-woman stuff in just about every religion. It's just that a lot of times male interpreters of that religion, let's just say like that, choose to ignore it. So how are you going to deal with issues that are polar opposites, and two countries that want to destroy each other? Number one, take the high road always. We desire peace. When Russia started attacking Ukraine, the first thing that we put out was not we support Ukraine. We put that out later. But we put out that everybody from Count Zero Records is safe and that we wish for peace and end of all hostilities. This is something that you can always do. Always take the high road on an issue and make that your first statement before you go into a more contentious issue. So when there is a difficult issue, talk to the overarching moral codex that you have. Say that you feel like everybody needs to be safe, and you would be happy if you'd be able to play a show in both countries. Max Beauty says, in my family, the wealth was brought by the women, and women were the ones who created the family. Yep, many countries. Vanessa says, I saw some videos where the animal world, the male give birth. Would be funny to see how the world would be. Would men have the role of women, or would they be more glorified? Interesting question. So few people have done. Okay. We're going to come a little bit more to that. So eventually people are going to ask you to take sides. And as it was, for example, with the process of Ukraine and Russia, a lot of people might know that the Austrians, and this is the country where I live and I am a citizen of, had very good relationships with Russia. Always had. We've been very actively in trading with them. We've been buying gas from them for a very long time, and we had wonderful diplomatic relations. And what happened in the first days of the war of Russia versus Ukraine was that there was lots of diplomacy going on from Austria towards Russia, saying, "What the fuck are you doing? You're jeopardizing our long-standing positive relationship that we have. We're not going to be able to buy stuff from you. There's going to be international pressure. What's going on? And the answer that essentially our government got from the Russians was, you can just fuck off. We're gonna take Ukraine, and if you don't support us, you're a hostile country. And the Austrians were very upset because for decades we had extremely good relationship with the Russians. We invited them. Hey, Serbi, thank you for subscribing for 13 months. I want to take some time and thank Serbi Vifa for supporting me in the channel. That's very, very good, and I love you very much for that. And all the people that are these long-term subscribers of the channel are the ones that make all of this possible. So thank you very much. Where was I? No, seriously, I mean it. You know how few people actually support you as an artist? That's another thing. That's a point for another show. How few people. Oh man, maybe I'll do that on Wednesday. How many followers you have, how many fans you have, and how many of these actually support you, and what the ratios are, and what you could do with it. And it's super important. I always say to my artists, thank the ones that are supporting you. Thank the ones that are buying your stuff. Thank the ones that are coming to your show, because those are the people that enable you to be an artist. You know what I mean? And I try to instill in all my people that it's not cheesy to say thank you when people support you, because they're essentially your customers. It's kind of like they're coming and buying your art. You know what I mean? Because that's really what it is. You do something and they come and buy it. And when a customer comes to your shop and buys something, you say, hey, thank you for your business. You would do that too. Not only if you were an artist. MX Beauty says, you and your wife are one of the most valued subs and followers here in Reddit. Yep. Yeah, no, some people are just awesome. Okay, man, I forgot where I was. Okay, I was at Critical Issues Contested. A versus B. Oh, yeah, Russia, Ukraine. So we let the issue drive our stance. And the Russians very quickly came down on the Austrians and said, you know what, if you don't fully support us and you don't break the rules that the EU set forth, which for Austria is, of course, completely impossible. I mean, you have to have a little bit of understanding of our position here. As one of the smallest countries in the world in the EU, it's not going to happen that we're going to break EU sanctions when we're part of the EU. We just simply can't do that. And the Russians were like, yeah, if you don't do that, then you're a hostile country. And the Austrians said, look, we've had great relationships with you for 70 years. You're just going to fuck that all up. And they essentially said, yeah, we're not interested. You need to support us or you're a hostile nation. And then they declared us a hostile nation. So we let the issue, we kind of like let other people drive the issue, and then we said, okay, look, in this week we cannot support Russia. They have been unresponsive, undiplomatic, unsupportive, and outright hostile towards us after 70 years of extreme great cooperation that we had, and we can just simply not understand what the fuck it is they're doing. And this then translated into our stance of Count Zero Records towards the war in Ukraine, to where we say we are actually supporting Ukraine because it is an illegal invasion and Russia has absolutely no business being there, and we just simply cannot understand what they're doing there. I mean, I can understand what they're doing there, but it's another discussion. Hey Rosa, how you doing? And Serbi says the Canadian military is getting ready to mobilize over 10,000 troops. Yeah, NATO is going to build up 300,000 troops more at the Russian border in case Putin is going to do something stupid. I have so many friends in Russia. I have so many business partners in Russia, because a lot of my friends that I went to university with decided to go and seek their career in Russia, because for an Austrian, that's a very normal thing to do. So I have a lot of people who have a significant interest in Russia, who are business people there, who are business owners, who are big-time managers, who have families in Russia, who have apartments and everything in Russia. And I asked them all, and they just simply could not believe it. And they said, oh my fucking God, he has ruined this country for the next 50 years, and we just simply cannot understand why. They were just as disappointed as I was, and I said, what the fuck is going on? And they said, he got bad advisement, Putin. And it's horrible. And my guys who have been staunch supporters of Russia for the last 30 years are now trying to get all of their shit out of there. And I was like, wow, if these people who really supported you and who really know a lot about Russia are saying, so make yourself knowledgeable about stuff, maybe ask somebody who knows more than you, and you can... all right. There's a big movement in the US that silence is violence, so if you refuse to take a side, you're automatically on the bad side. How do you deal with people like that? Silence is not violence, and that's absolutely not true. The point is that eventually the day is going to come where you as an artist are going to have to say something. Many times you won't be able to stay silent because people will demand a position from you, and then you should come to a position as we talked about. But there is, of course, and I'm going to go into that, the question from Gevoy. And then Ultraviolet has a question, say something about the situation with Kaliningrad and Lithuania. Okay, I will do both. In Austria, we have a saying, it's called Wehret den Anfängen. A lot of people know that Hitler was Austrian. And the reason why the Nazis came to power is because people stood by and did nothing. So in Austria and in Germany, there's a very dedicated understanding that some issues have to be tackled in the beginning, otherwise they'll get out of hand. And if you stand by while evil people do their work, you're enabling evil. And this is, I think, what people are getting with, you have to say something. Now, there's a huge difference between, I don't know, certain types of legislation in animal protectionism and the rise of fascism in Europe, which is, of course, a question of magnitude. But the understanding that Germans and Austrians have is that certain things you cannot stay quiet about, otherwise you are complicit. Just imagine the whole topic of racially based legislation in America, to where in the original Constitution, people of color were not declared as being people at all. If you look at certain countries, certain types of populations, like women, couldn't vote because they were not considered to be humans. And these are issues that I think you want to be on the right side in history, because you're going to be an artist for more than 2 years, and eventually supporting the humanistic approach, supporting rights for everybody, is gonna come out on top. So I personally do believe that when there is great evil in the world, that you should probably say something about it. You can do that however you want. You're an artist yourself. I'm not telling you what to do. But I personally believe when there's great evil, you should speak about it. Can you say something about the situation Kaliningrad and Lithuania? The situation is very clear. Kaliningrad is an exclave of Russia, and Lithuania prohibits the transport of goods that are prohibited from transport in the EU. Lithuania is complying with EU regulation. They don't have a choice in it. For people that don't know, Kaliningrad is an exclave of Russia that's surrounded by the EU. And the EU countries that are around it are blocking the transport of banned goods through their territory because, for example, it's currently illegal to transport Russian weapons through the European Union. a very sensible measure. Why would we enable that? So Russia is upset that they can't transport their weapons and other stuff through Europe. What can I say? We, especially Austria, try to talk to you and try to say, make something happen, and all Russia had to say, you're a hostile, fuck off. Okay. We are certainly not going to enable weapons transports in order so more people can get killed. It's not up to me. It's what 27 EU countries decided. Neither I, nor Austria, nor Lithuania can say we're not participating in that. It's been made on a bigger platform. That decision has been made. So the decision is very clear. And of course, Russia is fuming about that because they want to put weapons to Kaliningrad so they can threaten the EU with it. I don't know what goes into the thinking. Let's move weapons to Kaliningrad so we can threaten the Europeans, and then let's demand from the Europeans that they let these weapons pass so we can threaten them with them. You know what I mean? It's like you have to be really stupid in order to think that is going to really happen. So yeah, there's certain issues that you as an artist will not be able to avoid at all. You won't be able to say, okay, I'm going to stay silent when I see fascism, when I see authoritarianism, when I see inhibition of women's rights, when I see racism towards black people, when I see white on white racism, a huge issue in Europe here, and when I see a lot of these issues, reading a book and listening on my phone, I read women's rights and clicked, yeah. We have a situation to where we have concerns about women's rights in Saudi Arabia, in the Arab world, where women have a difficult stand. Can they go to work? Can they go to school? Can they drive a car? We have women's rights concerns in America now with the overturn of Roe v. Wade, where in 14 states now the United States of America, not the continent, has an abortion law that's much more strict than the abortion law of the Taliban in Afghanistan, because of course, for the people that know, Afghanistan is currently ruled by the Taliban, which are a Sharia implementing group of Muslim fundamentalists, I would say. But the Sharia states and the interpretation, the Hadith, state how you should handle abortion in very fundamentalist Islamic law. And for example, the Taliban have the rule that if there is a rape, abortion is legal. If there is if there's a danger that the woman would die, or the child is going to die, or there's going to be deformity, there's various ways that would be true. And currently in some states in America, abortion is now banned without exemption, meaning that the Taliban have more liberal abortion laws than some states in the United States of America. And this is obviously a disconnect of history, because most people regard the Taliban to be kind of like backwards, very fundamental Muslim people, and the Americans to be like progressive people, And Serbi says, with someone that comes from Germany and having family members that were with the Nazis and family that fought for the other side, this is very disheartening to see and hear. I'm not sure what you're talking about now, Serbi. Which issue is disheartening to see and hear? Say something about the situation in was it Ukraine or something? Just let me know, and then we'll talk about that some more. So you when you as an artist, or you, let's say you are affected. Let's say you are a black artist like CI on our label, and he cares very much about topics regarding what's happening in US and Russia. I have no words. My friends have no words. Their families have no words. I have friends who used to be businessmen in Russia who fled the country with their families, who are all Russian also. Their kids are dual citizens. They have apartments there and companies there, and they just cannot believe it, and they don't know what to do. They built their life in Russia, and now, I mean, most of them are pretty well off, so it's not, a story of sadness and crying and stuff, but it's a thing to where they just couldn't believe it. They literally could not believe it. They said Putin will never attack Ukraine. It's just bullshit. It's not going to happen. Why would he do that? It's useless. Ukraine doesn't have anything, So it has saddened many people in Russia, my friends, people in Austria, and it's a huge problem for a lot of people in Russia who don't really have a say on what's going on in the state, because it's simply determined for them by a what I can only call autocratic regime that kind of like does whatever the fuck they feel like. And then they make some fake elections where 99.9% of the people vote for him, and that's that. It's all very sad and very disheartening. So there's that. So we can talk more about the Russia stuff. I just want to go towards the racism thing, because then it becomes clear. Let's say you are a black hip hop artist from America or Africa. For that, much better. Let's say you're a black hip hop artist from Africa. You live in Kenya. You make music, and when you go to France and you perform, there's a bunch of white people that are making monkey noises and yelling obscenities at you for being black. How are you going to react? The point is that if in a situation like that, you as an artist are just not going to react continuously, people will be weirded out about that, at very least a little bit, You're gonna have to say something, and what I generally advise you to do, or would advise you to do, is to stay positive about it. You could say, I love everybody. I hope that everybody gets along. We are against racism, and anybody who wants to enjoy our music is welcome to do so. We're happy that you're here, and we hope that, you're gonna have a good time, and maybe you're gonna one day like me. I don't know, something like that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that at a certain point, you as an artist, kind of like it was now, you won't be able to escape from the issue, because you will be a woman. You will be black. You will be Austrian, which is one of the closest countries to Russia in Europe. And people will always fucking ask you the question, are you supporting the Russians? What's going on? How's it going on? And I can only tell from my personal experience, and from what I can say, I can try to be honest about it. But eventually, people will ask you for your personal opinion because you are affected. And when you are affected with an issue, it's really better to talk about it. It's not good at this point to ignore it and to say, yeah, I don't care about that, because you're going to piss off everybody. You know what I mean? At a certain point, being completely neutral, you're also going to piss off somebody. Because if you're neutral in the conflict, Russia versus Ukraine, they're both going to hate you. So there's going to be issues, and this is the first time we talk about that, where if you don't say anything, both sides will hate you. Because they want you to be on their individual side and say that they're right, and then you're going to have to choose a side. And after talking for about an hour, it comes now to the most difficult of questions: having to decide. You're being asked, you're being pushed, you're being affected, you're being questioned, and you're not answering. Is making people hate you. You're gonna come out and have to say something. Vanessa says, I hope France didn't do that with the French Outre-mer regions with black people. I just made an example. I'm not saying this is happening. I'm not saying it's happening to anybody. I just Snikta says, have you ever been to Africa? I have been to North Africa. I've been to Egypt. And that is, I think, the only place I've been to. I love Egypt, though. It was fucking amazing. But it's not what people consider, Africa proper. It's North Africa. But anyway. So when you have to decide and take a stance, for example, you're a female artist in America right now, it's going to be really difficult to avoid the topic that's currently going on. Are you for or against it? And if you're not answering, people will be upset because you're standing in silence and letting things happen. And at an unavoidable place, you're gonna have to think of something to say. And I am going to advise you to go with what you really believe. And that has a background, actually, that has a commercial background. Because when you say what you really believe, you're going to lose the people that think otherwise, but you're going to gain the people that think the same. Which means you're going to end up with fans that are closer to you, maybe fewer, but closer to you than the fans before were. So if I am pressured to choose a side on a topic because I cannot avoid it, then I always go with what I really personally think, because then I'm going to get fans that think like me and that think what I do is right, and you'll have the right fans. You know what I mean? Because if you're like a super fake person and stuff, and you're like, you might end up having the wrong fans, like... the famous thing like Merle Haggard, the Okie from Muskogee, which is a song that kind of like made fun about country music listening people. And then because it was so popular, he kind of said that it was really a country music song. And nowadays he's a big country music star. And he got taken hostage by his own lie. He did not dare to say that it's a song making fun of people, but but because of the success. And so people become something that is actually the opposite of what they want it to be, just because they kind of like pigeonholed themselves into something and then didn't have the heart to come out of it. And Serby says the artist Stromae had to deal with the monkey sounds when he was in Montreal many years ago when I went to one of his shows. Yeah, it's a thing that people do to kind of like put forward racist things towards black people in many countries. Vanessa says Egypt has one of the most interesting old history of the entire world. Yeah, absolutely. I visited a lot of it. It was crazy. And what I did not believe and what I personally appreciate a whole lot was that the food was actually really good. I went diving. I ate a lot of local food, which people said, don't eat the local food. You're going to get the runs and everything. It was really good. And then I did as much visiting of old stuff as I could. I was in Karnak. I was in Valley of the Kings and Queens and stuff and whatnot. All the fucking touristy stuff. Hatshepsut Temple and whatnot. I thought it was extremely impressive, and people were just walking through it and they were sweating and kind of like uninterested. And to me, it was really, really interesting. I don't know. All right. 7,000 deaths during apartheid, 50,000, 500,000 deaths after. That would be South Africa apartheid, correct? Gevu says this stream is about avoiding arguments. No, I think that arguments cannot always be avoided. And this is what I've said. At the end of the day, when an argument, when you need to take a stance, you should take the stance that is closest to you, because your fans, the fans that you will retain will be the ones that think like you, and it will ultimately benefit you as an artist, unless you're a dedicated. If you look, let's say Hassan Piker versus Ben Shapiro, I'm not taking the extremely obvious left and rightists here. I'm taking some only like B-level obvious people here. So you have Hassan Piker, which is a big streamer, and he's a dedicated leftist, and his base is dedicated leftist, and they're drowning each other in leftist happiness. And that works really good, because everybody's left and they all have a very, very similar attitude. And there's harmony. There's harmony, He doesn't have a single rightist fan. But that's okay for him because that's what he is. And if you have like Ben Shapiro, who kind of like does the same thing on the right, you're fine. You're a declared... You have taken a strong side of an issue and decided that all of the other fans you're not even going to have. You're going to have fans that only think about, I don't know, you're very fundamentalist, pagan, whatnot. Or you're extremely, you believe in that the new prophet of Christianity is Bob from Nebraska, whatnot, And then all the people that believe that Bob from Nebraska is the second coming of Jesus, they would go with you, and the people that with other people would not. That's also possible. You are then an artistic personality who has a dedicated agenda. You could say I'm a leftist. I support animal rights. I support female rights. Blah blah blah, whatnot. And then people would see your profile. And people that like your profile would then follow you and say, okay, this is a guy that I can get behind. He's really what I think also. And you will see that you will have great support. Same thing on the right. You'll say, I'm for these kind of issues. I'm against these kind of issues. And you'll have a great amount of support from that direction. But you'll alienate, of course, or not even have, especially, Shapiro versus Piker. You'll not have fans from... from the other side, and you're going to have to be good with that. To me and to Count Zero Records, personally, what I can say is that there's certain issues that I feel the label needs to step down and say where you stand. I was criticized in the last few days by certain amount of people, a small amount of people, for coming down pro-female rights and pro-gun control. And anybody who watches my shows knows that I'm a Army veteran, and I've been in the Army for a while, as most Austrians have. And as somebody who professionally handled a gun, I am absolutely 100% for gun control, especially semi-automatic and full auto, in any population, because I have seen firsthand how much bullshit people, while they're being trained, are doing with guns. And I cannot imagine a world where you can buy these guns without training. That just blows my mind. In the Army, where they're training you tirelessly gun safety, you always have accidents, and every year people die. In one of the most closely controlled environments, these people are literally counting bullets. They're inspecting your gun 4 times a day to make sure that you don't have anything in there. It's like 100 times more restricted than any private environment when you're being trained as a soldier to safely operate a gun. And then you just give this shit to some 16-year-old shithead, say, go ahead. This is something that I personally think is total idiocy. Nobody that isn't trained or has a reason to have a gun, a semi-automatic gun. I'm not talking about hunting gun, but hunting also needs training. No question about that. Semi-auto, full auto, don't even talk about it. No business. You're not going to have to put 12 bullets into a deer from 300 meters with a Steyr AUG. There's just no way. You're not going to hunt deer with that. You know what I mean? So all this bullshit that a lot of people that are in kind of like gun support groups that have never been in the army, that are not police officers, they're not soldiers, they're fucking people who've never held a gun in their life in any professional way other than to do shots at a range, and then advocate for something that they have no idea about. It just blows my mind. All the armchair generals that have never been shot at or been in an environment where you could possibly be shot, and they're like, yeah, let's have some guns. I mean, come on, if you don't know what you're talking about. So I feel strongly about this issue. I think that every soldier should have access to guns. Every police officer, law enforcement person, SWAT, no question about it. Everybody that has a reason to handle a gun should be trained and should handle a gun on the maximum professional level that they can. And everybody else has no business having a gun. You don't need it. You don't see me walking around with a stethoscope like a doctor, because I don't need it, because I'm not a doctor. You know what I mean? It's like this. So this is an issue that I feel, and I kind of like put the label down on that issue. I strongly believe in gun control. I don't believe that guns should be illegal. No, I believe they should be controlled. People should be trained, and only then, if they qualify, if they have a reason, etc., they can have a gun. Guns are tools like anything else, but they need to be regulated, and regulated heavily, because they're dangerous. So I said, most police and veterans in the U.S. are pro-guns. Oh, I don't know about that. There is bad electrics in South Africa because ANC stole 500 billion from the people. I don't know anything about that. Sniktas, I couldn't say anything about it, really. But corruption happens, you know? So what I wanted to say is that if there's a topic that I have, then I will represent that topic as something for me, possibly for the label. And it's the same thing that was about female rights. I do believe, and I don't know many people who believe not that a woman should be able to decide what happens with her body. I had a very fun time having rightist anti-vaxxers protest in the street yelling, "My body is my choice." I was like, wow, there are all these very obviously Trumpist people are obviously pro abortion now, because they're like, my body, my choice. And I even have a cartoon. It was really funny. So yes, I am for the right of black people to be people. I'm for the right of females to be people. And there is nothing that would be a gray area in me as an artist and us as a label supporting these things, because we do believe in them. So if you as an artist believe in something, then stand for it. Why not? Because at the end of the day, some of these topics will be unavoidable anyway. Just kind of like before you say something, think about it a little bit. Kind of like inform yourself before you say something. Because what I see is a lot of, let's say, well-meaning artists making statements that then kind of like open them to all kinds of hilarity because they didn't really research the topic. They would say things that are like by the factor 10,000 wrong, or things that are just, just very poor research, because they wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to come out on a certain topic, but they did it the wrong way. So when you're trying to say something and you've decided you're going to come out on one side of the issue, you should research it first. And you will find that a lot of the stuff that the public believes, the general public believes, is actually wrong. There's an amazing amount of stuff that people believe that is wrong, but that you have to understand that many times these stereotypes, and this is what they are, have been there for decades. What, for example, a stereotype that I'm always conflicted about is when I go to America, and what I always hear is public healthcare doesn't work, and you have to wait very long. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, yeah, public healthcare doesn't work, and whenever in Europe you go to a doctor, you have to wait for weeks to get seen by a doctor. And I was like, who told you that? And then they would say, everybody knows that. I'm like, but have you been there? Have what? You know? And it's very, very weird. And eventually you find out that these are talking points that a certain political movement that is against public health care has been saying for the last, I would say, 40 years. Of course, it's not true, but the people cannot validate it to the negative because they've never been there. So most people that are in America that have this opinion have not been in Europe, have never been using a public healthcare system, and just simply don't know better, and they believe the leaders of their political movement to be truthful. So what they say is true. And one day, it's so funny, I have to say it. One day, I saw a show in America. I was not there. I was watching a certain news channel, and there was a European expert, an American commentator, European expert, and he said he knows Europe because after university, he went there for 3 months and backpacked through Europe. So he has a good understanding of how Europe works. And this is essentially everything that's wrong with that. Just because you've been a tourist somewhere doesn't mean you really know anything. Because Europe is extremely diverse. Its countries, its governments, its cultures are very diverse. There's many different things going on here. And just because you and your friends backpacked through Europe and got drunk on 4 different beaches doesn't mean that you're now an expert on things that are now going on 30 years after you've been drunk on a beach. But you're happy to tell your audience all about it. Yeah. So there's a lot of misconceptions that are out there that if you as an artist refute them, people will be upset. People were, I can remember people were upset when I said college in Austria is free, university. Doesn't cost any money. And people said to me in America, and I can still vividly remember that is a lie. It cannot be true, and that college is free because that is very, very expensive. And what are you going to say to that? I'm like, I literally lived there all my life. I grew up there. I know how it is for me every day. I studied there. I paid nothing for it. What more do you want me to give you as hints, you know? But this is just to say that some people will have an opinion that is completely outside of factual evidence and is based in belief. Many times also the same in religious beliefs, that people will have a certain religious belief and they will believe it just because, and you won't be able to convince them to the other side. Yeah, and here's some people tell each other about not to talk about something, okay? So before you blurt something out that is extremely a stereotype, think about it. If you're a European and you want to say something about America, if you're a European and you want to say something about Africa, if you're American and you want to say something about Europe, do yourself a favor and research it first. Do not mimic what the general public in your country or your specific bubble says about somebody else. Instead say, I know nothing about it. Like that question somebody said about South Africa, how the ANC stole money from the people. what am I going to say about this? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. I just simply don't know. And I'm not going to be able to talk to this issue, but what I can say is I sympathize with people that have money embezzled by corruption from corrupt governments or organizations, if that is true. That is horrible. It's a general stance against corruption that people can have, you know. So many times people kind of like instinctively make statements that they should maybe research first. And of course, if you have already researched the topic, then you're welcome to make that statement, because why not? You know about the topic, you are knowledgeable about it, you want to say something about it, then go ahead and do that and make that statement, make it as positive and as respectful as possible. And now I'm coming back to something that Vani said. People will be offended. No matter what you say, no matter how friendly and how positive you say, is that somebody will always be offended. Know that. Then people spend too long talking to Brits. When talks end of October, still waiting for the referral to come through. That's what I'm saying, you know. Things are different in different European countries, and I'm not super expert on the UK. I know that they have fish and chips, but I genuinely have no idea how the NHS works, which is their national healthcare system. I know that coverage is a little bit different, but if somebody were to ask me, how do you feel about the British NHS? Is it good or not? The only thing I could say is I really don't know. But I'm hoping for my friends in the UK that it works really well. You know, and the offense. You know, some people will be offended that you will have people that have extremely strong religious views, that have extremely strong political views, left or right or whatnot. And no matter what you say, some of them will be offended. And then you have to know that you're going to have to deal with some of your fans that you're going to be offending, because some of them might lash out and post stuff on your socials, or even insult you on socials and say, hey, I did not believe you were going to say that. I love your music, but you're such a horrible artist. Now I see that you're a hypocrite and an asshole and whatnot. So people will be not very considerate, and they will hate you, and they'll stick it to you. And then you're going to have a plan or an idea how you're going to deal with people that are going to be upset by you taking a stance on things. Coffee culture comes from the Arab world, I assume. I think coffee came to us with the Turks and stuff. So the coffee culture is generally stronger in Southeast Europe than in Western Europe. And it kind of like degrades the farther away it goes from the original. I think that Arab coffee culture is wonderful. I like those types of coffee actually the best. Austrian coffee culture is very interesting, and then it kind of like degrades as it goes more west, and it becomes more weird. Italy, very good culture. Austria, very good culture. Greece, Turkey, wonderful. Anywhere in the Middle East, you can get a good coffee. But a lot of people actually don't like the coffee in the coffee, and that's why they're kind of like putting all kinds of other stuff in there, because for some reason they don't like the coffee taste of coffee. To me, that's interesting. And then you get all the way to the US, where they kind of like take like a liter of milk and then put 4 drops of coffee in there, and then they say, yeah, that's my latte. You know? Everybody how they want it. Everybody how it floats their boat. But for us, this is not coffee. And for Greeks or for Arabs, probably it wouldn't be coffee. No, Italy. Yes, Vanessa, Italy, very good. I love Italy. It's like Italy is a huge culture in culinary arts. like anything, food, drink, whatnot. They're superstars of culinary arts, and I very much love and respect the Italians for that. So, great food, great drinks, just everything comes out of Italy. Other than some of their, man, Italy has this obsession with these dry biscuits. Horrible. I hate these fucking dry Italian biscuits. But that's pretty much the only thing. I like more like profiteroles and things like that, the creamy stuff, when you're talking about the sweets. And Meg says she got yelled at for missing an appointment because the doctor felt very strongly she needed to go. I was taught how to make Turkish coffee when I was 5, yeah. And he wants rösti from me. Rösti is a good thing. There's some things that that Swiss can also cook, Switzerland has surprisingly little culinary achievements, but they have some. Rösti and Züricher Geschnetzeltes, maybe. I don't know. I have relatives in Trieste, so I have a bias. Yeah. No, I mean, Italy is great. France is great. I've been to France, and I was like, man, they're really all about their food. It's awesome. Greece is great. Croatia is great. Kind of like, it's more like South Europe, like the more north you go in Europe, the shittier the food gets. But I think it has to do with the fact that the more north you go, the colder it is, and people just didn't have this diversity of food, this access to fresh vegetables, etc. When you're in the ice desert of Sweden, there's only so much you can cook, So your national cuisine is going to be influenced by that. And all of the countries that are like in South Europe at the Mediterranean, they have a very abundant cuisine, which is great. And Vanessa says, I love the dry biscuits in Italy, but I don't like the profiteroles. Okay. See, everybody's got something else, French style, yeah. And I had so many people say to me, you have to come to New York, that's the best Italian pizza. And I was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's the most original, the best Italian pizza is in New York. I'm like, dude, how am I going to say that? It's not Italian pizza at all. It's maybe Italian style. It's maybe a family from Italy that does it. But like, I don't know. I'm willing to be surprised. Somebody take me to New York and show me a better pizza than anywhere in Italy. Let's do Napoli versus New York. One day it's gonna be a eat out. It's of course the point is that in metropolitan areas like New York and Paris and Vienna and others, you can have a lot of stuff from people that are from there. You'll have immigrants that kind of like do an original kitchen, which is wonderful. But the absurdities that people make of other countries. I mean, the stuff that people sell here in Austria is Chinese food. It's like 100% not Chinese food. I still eat it and people like it. But I do know it's not original, you know what I mean? And the stuff that people sell in other countries as real Austrian food is like a joke. In Sweden, they put tomato sauce on the schnitzel, and every Austrian is like, what the fuck? It's like it's crazy, but it's all good fun, And everybody has the things that they like. And the pizza has been, it's great victory around the world. And the next victory coming up, by the way, after pizza and pasta is going to be Döner. Because Döner is going around the world. And it has had the most interesting story. Sorry, I digress. But Döner came to Germany with Turkish immigrants that came here for labor. They changed the recipe. It's not originally how it is in Turkey. Adapted it to kind of like a German taste and a different style, made this typical Döner from it, and now they're exporting it everywhere in the world, and people are like, wow, that's really good, but it's not actually really Turkish. But But so, General Charles Spätzle. Yeah, that's right. Oh my God. Yes. According to Bourdain, actually, best pizza is in Japan. I don't know. I've never been in Japan, but I would like to go to Japan. There's so specific culture with so many interesting things, but I've never been. Can't say anything about it, but I'd really like to go one day. I'd have to try all the shit there. It's so different. And Vanessa says my best tiramisu was in Miami, honestly, but the dude was OG Neapolitano and had a dialect from there. Yeah, immigrants, great thing. I love all the Chinese here, all the Turkish people here. We have a doner place called Pamukkale, and there's like a Turkish family that makes doner there, so really good. Real biscotti and Turkish coffee. I went eating in a restaurant daily when I was in Miami, even did spaghetti al dente. And Vanessa says she would go back to Miami to eat Italian. See, there's stories of where it works, you know. It's interesting, but these are all things, you know, that if you research them and if you're being truthful about them, you'll have more dedicated fans. And your fans respect your things. But if you don't research it, then it's kind of like, you know. I don't know if I'm going to throw out one more controversy out there in order to illustrate a topic, but maybe I'm going to do it. So recently, there's in America, there's this reproductive rights thing, you know, abortion. And you have, and I'm going to authentically describe the positions. You'll have the Catholic Church, the American more conservative Christians, and a Republican Party that is against abortion. And you'll have the Democratic Party, liberal Christians and liberal people being for abortion. And then you could be asked about that. See, what I usually say to people is when they say the Bible says to have no abortion, that is actually not true. What the Bible actually says is that the soul enters the body with the first breath of the child, which means that a human becomes a human when it is born, and before that it is actually a thing. Now, that was written thousands of years ago, needs a little bit of historic context, would probably not fully support it. But there's a very large movement of millions of people out there that are willfully ignoring the book that they say they adhere to because it doesn't provide them with the position they're seeking for. So you'll find many times that people that are on one side of a certain issue and feel very strongly about it actually ignore their own sources. It was kind of like the same thing with Nazism, which kind of like appropriated a lot of cultural symbolism from India. The swastika, the whole thing, Aryan, a lot of it was actually comes from German mysticism and was incorporated and was then kind of like pretended to be the original Nordic master race iconography and culture. So many times, and this is the last tip I'm giving for today, you'll be able to counteract people's positions when they are very uninformed. So don't be the one who's uninformed. And then the last situation is be the one who actually is informed, and then you can counteract positions of people that are not. Because the people, and this is something that will be of value to you as an artist, the people that you will find that are intensively informed about issues will be very few. Most people that will get into screaming matches with you about issues are usually people that have very little idea of the issue itself, and that come from an entirely emotional place, and then you'll not be able to make a connection there with a statement because they go through entirely with emotion. Yeah. So there are many. Some people in India are named Swastika, says A Consult. Oh my God. Drones only from now on, no more hanky panky. Yes. Oh, yeah. So I love to research topics. I love to get into stuff of history, and then I say things that make people upset, but they're true. And when people look them up, they find out that I was actually right. And many times they turn around and come to me and say, look, you were actually right about this. Not in these words. Very few people openly come to you and say that you were right about things. And there's very inflammatory, this is the point. Another point. There are very inflammatory issues in the world today that are actually fabricated. They're fabricated to be inflammatory issues when they're actually not. They're actually completely consensual, but what two political sides have wanted to do is to make them into issues so that people do take sides on either side of them, so that it splits people up and that it makes a difference between us and them. And us is always the people that that people are trying to dominate, and them is the people that they're trying to put them against. So many issues that seem to split society nowadays aren't actually issues at all. I would ask anybody who has a problem with Islam to read the Quran, and I would ask a lot of these Muslims to actually also read the Quran and read the history of the Prophet Muhammad and find out about stuff, and you would have a lot less problems with Christians and Jews. And the other way, the same way. But a lot of times what I find is a significant lack of understanding, because people don't want to understand the issue. They don't want to clarify the issue. They don't want to work together on the issue. They want it to be an inflammatory issue. And for you as an artist, there is a possibility to take these issues and highlight the common ground that there is. Because many times there's a lot of common ground. It's just that a lot of times there's a lot of people working towards obfuscating the fact that there is a lot of common ground. Okay, there's some talking about stuff. Intellectual boundaries, says Akonsur, are really helpful. In most cases, we don't have to agree. Then I can listen and collaborate rather than try to dominate. Yeah. There's various ways to approach things as an artist, but think of yourself, if you are an artist, think of yourself as a media person. You're a person who professionally uses media. That's what you do. You make music, you write books, you make paintings, you use media. Why would you not professionally use media when you make statements about inflammatory issues? Do the same way that you approach your art. Give it a good working. You put a lot of love in your art. You put a lot of heart in your work. You put a lot of thought in your art. You could apply that. You should apply that to your positions that you have as an artist. Research them. Find out about them. Find the ones that you don't want to talk about because you're unqualified. Find the ones that you do want to talk about because they're really important issues. Educate yourself about them, and then speak from a place, not a place of emotion, but a place of knowledge. Because very few people will be able to diss you based on knowledge. if you say, if you, rather than giving an emotional statement, come forward with tangible, researchable, and verifiable information, there's very little that people would be able to do in terms of to diss you, to shun you, to cancel you, because you're just saying what is truth. And I think this is what's lacking currently in a situation in its totality in the world, that people are not first looking for what is actually true and then discussed based on what is true. They kind of like skip the entire process of finding the truth, or the best version of the truth that is accessible to us at the moment, and then talking based on that. They immediately talk based on their own emotion. And there is a little bit of problem with that. All right, I'm going to wrap up to talk about inflammatory topics and how to talk about stuff now. And then I'm going to go on a little bit of a 10 minutes of talking about the current crisis and what's going on, and how I think it's going to impact artists and art as a whole. As always, if you like the stream, upvote it on Reddit, give it a like and follow, so you can get an alarm when we're coming on next. I'm going to come on Wednesday. There's going to be another one. And then I'm going to go to holidays, and you don't want to miss when I return for season 3. 5th of September, I think. All right, last topic for today is currently what's going on. If you are in crypto, and I know it's a big jump now, you should probably consider getting out. Information that we're getting is today another 670 million hedge fund had to declare insolvency and defaulted on their loans. There is the problem that projects like Celsius, Luna, and others have become insolvent, and thousands of people have lost everything that they have. And the entire market is currently in severe crisis, because a lot of the crypto projects were funded by revolving loans that can only be serviced if there are significant gains in the crypto sphere. So the whole thing is extremely volatile, because a lot of organizations are currently not able to service their loans anymore, and they're essentially default because they bet on the fact that crypto is only ever going to go up. So if you're currently in that space, do be careful. If you're an artist, 1000% don't do anything with NFTs at the moment, because it will be only to your detriment. And instead, orient yourself towards new ventures and leave behind the old venture. Crypto is like 2010 to 2020. That was the decade of crypto, and that is kind of like, that's that. Look for new stuff. Look for interesting stuff that you can do in order to propagate your art. But what is going to impact you is the current economic situation, which is a little bit of a problem, because we still have the negative impacts of COVID, and we have the negative impacts of the Russia-Ukraine war, and then we have a general economic downturn with increasing interest and inflation rates. So all of that is going to impact you as an artist. And I want to give you an advice that I know I've always had, but that a Greek entrepreneur, Jason Calacanis, said so nice on the TikTok that I'm going to share it with you. And he said, if you don't already have one, the best store of value that you can possibly have is a house, because it has the added benefit of not only storing value, that money becoming more every year and growing as an investment, but you can also live in it. Which means it reduces your active costs. So if you have funds, if you have money, as an artist, one of your biggest expenses will always be living. Your living costs will always be the thing that you're gonna go, that is gonna be a thing. Rent, power, electricity, food. Those are the things that you as an artist will always have. So if you as an artist have a place to stay, that is an extremely good place to invest your money. Your money it will be worth more every year. You'll be able to live in it for free, and it'll completely store your value, no matter how much crypto goes up or down, or how much the dollar goes up or down. Your apartment will always be worth a certain amount, and it will be completely decoupled from the problems that money as a whole has. And so the best choice I can and the best suggestion I can make for artists is to actually own their own apartment if you have money. If you don't have money, then you're probably not investing in crypto. You don't have any of these problems. How is it going to affect you? What's going to happen is prices are going to go up, which means all the things that you buy daily are going to be more expensive. And you as an artist need to be aware that you're going to have to find new sources of income just to be able to stay at the same level of consumption that you're currently at. So you're going to have to get a little bit creative. What you need to do is you need to find a new side hustle or something to do for about 150, 200, 300, 400, whatever it is, how many bucks that you can do a month in order to stay at approximately the same level that you're now for the probably next 3 to 5 years. So thank you, Consul, for Take My Energy. That's very nice of you. Nice chat. Yeah. And fortunately, you as an artist have many ways of making that money because you're a creative person. You can go into the whole music school thing. You can train other people how to be an artist. You can train them on how to play the piano, on how to sing. You can make music for advertisements. You can write books. You can sell paintings. There's many things you can do. And a lot of the possible recipients of these services that you usually don't think of as an artist are companies. Companies need all kinds of artwork. They need texting. They need music. They need all kinds of stuff. Just go to one of the many job platforms. I'm not even saying which ones they are. And look, and you'll find that there's a lot of companies that are looking for a lot of artistic services. It's usually that artists only think about their fans as like the private individual fans as the people that will make them money. But it's actually quite to the contrary. Corporations can be a great customer for you, and they usually have the things that the fans have a hard time with, and that's money. Because for a corporation, if they contract you to pay you a few $1,000s for something, for them is very easy. To get a few $1,000s from fans, that's a long way to go. So if you want 2 tips on how to do things, is make sure that you lower your monthly costs by living in your own apartment if you can. Many of you won't be able to, I know. And if you don't, then do seriously consider that companies can be your customers too. And you can do anything from jingles to product design to many, many things that you can kind of like educate yourself about, depending on what your creative art is, where you can make some money working for business customers. And a lot of these business customers, it's not going to be McDonald's and BMW. You know what I mean? It's going to be small companies that are from your area that need this or that. Don't think that that's below you or anything like that. It's wonderful. And these kind of like mid-sized companies, for the most part, are looking for people because mid-sized companies usually do not have people that do that. People are always like kind of like barking up the wrong tree. People are like, I want McDonald's to buy my stuff. Dude, McDonald's has an army of artists working for them. But the person that does not have an artist working for them is your local car shop. You know why? Because they have 4 mechanics and a secretary. They don't have somebody to do graphics for them, but McDonald's does, BMW does. They all have art teams. They don't need you. You know what I mean? So pitching yourself to the wrong customer, pitch yourself to customers that you know. Buy farmland like Bill Gates. Yeah, that's actually not dumb. Pitch yourself to people that you know that don't have artistic support. Anybody who has a company with less than 20 people working for them does not have artistic support, unless they're an art company. You know, that's different. But your typical restaurant, your typical car shop, your typical tax consultant, whatnot, any company that has less than 20 people working for them is almost always a company that doesn't have any kind of art support. And if you contact them, or if you see an offer from them online that they need some kind of service, those will be people that will be good to approach for you, because they actually need your services. Now, granted, these people are not going to be able to pay like $20,000 for a campaign, but they will also not require huge contracts. You know, a car shop might just require a little folder they can put out, some graphics for the website, whatnot. They usually don't ask you for like huge things. But as an artist, you do have to make sure that you're covered on that base, because, as you know, artists make 75% from performance, 20% from merchandise, and the rest is from other stuff, if you do nothing else. The people that actually make minimum wage in the world, and there's data about this every year that we get, we see that the typical musician, and that's musicians now, that can live off of his art, has 30% to 40% of his income from a music-related job. Selling instruments, working at a music school, selling various artistic services to companies. And that's on average. So if you want to be a professional artist, if you want to be a professional musician, international data suggests that from the people that can sustain themselves with their art, 30% of that income comes from not them making art and selling it to people, but from a secondary job that is in kind of like in the orbit of what you do, but it's not kind of like tied to your real artistic work. You could be consulting artists, you could be managing artists. There's many ways you can do, but generally, what people always come to me is like, let's work at a music store, or let's work at a music school. I can teach people how to do that, or I can sell guitars, you know, because I have a job opportunity. Canvas worker, yeah. Ketchikan, Alaska, sales upholstery, canvas worker. Okay, yeah. So if you are an artist who is more like into kind of like making stuff, you know, consider making and selling stuff. But out of the normal people, it's 30% regular job, 30% performing, 30% merchandise, and then like a tiny bit of royalties, because royalties are shit. And out of the people that are really big, it's like 75 performance, 20% merchandise, and then some 10% royalties. They don't do normal jobs anymore because they're bigger. They're people that make north of $70,000 every year from their art, and they don't need to have a secondary job anymore. But if you're making less than $50,000 a year from your art, data suggests that you're gonna have to have this third leg to stand on, which is 30% of your income should come from a secondary job that revolves in and around art, and that would allow you to kind of like, be a musician. A lot of people kind of like, mostly new people that I get that send me their demos and stuff have the idea that they're going to start being an artist and they're going to immediately live off their royalties that they get from Spotify. And then I have to tell them, you will never live off of your royalties that you get from Spotify, Apple, or anything, because royalties in any artist's portfolio are never more than 10%. That there isn't an artist in the world that makes more than 10% from their royalties. Because even for the very big artists, they usually make extremely good money from brand endorsement deals, like Nike, Adidas, or whatnot, and less from the actual royalties of their songs. So in percentages, I always tell people, kind of like, get off that royalty thing and start thinking as merch, performance, job. If you have these three things nailed down, merch, performance, job, then you're going to be able to pursue your career. And it's similar with artistic pursuits that are not musicians. So get the merch, get the performance, and of course, if you're a graphic artist, performance is going to be difficult for you, but you have this whole thing of publishing, of illustrating for other people. Obviously, it's going to depend on what kind of artist you are. Get rich creating a logo for McDonough. Yeah, dude, I love Döner. I could eat Döner every fucking day. It's just, man, I'm now a little bit far away from the next Döner stand. I have to drive, I would say, about 20 minutes to the next Döner stand that I used to go to like every day. And it's not good. So, in closing, show 179, I hope you found some value in what I said today. If you do like the show, please follow us on the various social media channels so you can get an update when we come on the next time. We do have a Discord server. That's countzerorecords.com/Discord, where you can chat with us all of the time. There's over 2,000 people there now. Most of them are artists. And it's a server where artists kind of like talk to each other. And there's everything from from collaboration to people asking us stuff. Yes, we give free advice on that server. We don't charge anything for it. You can ask us respectfully. There's people that are graphics artists. There's people that are motorcyclists. Yeah. No, trial bike artists. Yeah, yes. Musicians and many others, producers. And you can ask them all for stuff. So join the Count Zero Records Discord server if you want to interact with us until we come back on the show. Other than that, I'll be coming back Wednesday at 8 o'clock. I don't know which topic I'm going to do yet, but it's going to be the last show for season 2, and it's going to be show 180, I think. Yep, insane. Maybe I'll do something like a best of, or I don't know. But it's certainly going to be very interesting. And then I'm going to go on summer holiday, and I'm going to come back in September. Alrighty, I'm going to look over there. All right, guys, thank you very much for being on today with me. My name is Avio. There it is. Avio. I'm the president of Count Zero Records. You're welcome to join us on the Discord server, and I stream every Monday and Wednesday about the music industry and topics revolving in and around art. And I'll be very happy if you join me next time on the show. It's Wednesday at 8 o'clock Central European time. Thank you all for being with me. I love you all, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
So so